So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and people might trickle in here. I want to make sure if there's some questions that our speakers will have plenty of time to answer those questions, and I'm committed to being done by 1 or sooner. So we'll see how that goes. So welcome to WOBA. Do we have, I don't know if Jim Randall's on here, but Craig, do you think we have any standing reports or anything that, and first let me say, I am the president. You probably don't know me by now. You've forgotten about who I am, Wes Weller. I'm president of West Olympia Business Association, and it's an honor to be here. And normally we have standing reports. So is Jim online, or Craig, do you know of any standing reports that might?
We did not plan for standing reports today. We knew with 2 presenters that we potentially would be running a little longer than we typically do. And so no standing reports today. Any new or noteworthy information has been going out via email. So, and this came up earlier today, if you're not receiving the e-blast from West Olympia Business Association, they tend to actually have substantive content in them, not just be frivolous. So if you're not getting those, you can send a message to any one of the directors or staff on this call, or send an email to info@westollybusiness.com, and we'll put you on that list.
Okay, wonderful. Well, my screen's gone blank here. So I can definitely get the program going. And Betty, you're gonna have to forgive me because I had something on the screen describing you, and I know you, and I know you've been in the residential real estate for I think 20 years here. Worked for Green Realty, if not longer. So I know you're great resources for residential real estate and what's going on in our community. And then Danielle is going to be on the other side. She's the vice president of Rance Group, and she's a local here in Olympia, and her grandfather was, or is, Ron Rance, and father Pat Rance. Those are the names that we all know about associated with commercial real estate. So Danielle, it's an honor to have you here too. So Betty, why don't you go first?
Okay.
And how long do you think your presentation is going to be to start?
You know, not very long, because I know there'll probably be discussion and maybe some questions.
Okay.
So maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes is great. And then Danielle will have you for 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll open up for questions. That sound like a good agenda? Okay, wonderful. Okay, Betty, with no further ado, I know your family's been on Kaiser Road forever.
Yes. Yeah. Well over 100 years. So
Dairy farmers.
They were the Kaiser dairy farm family. The story has it, they had a farm in Capalis Beach. They were ready to move up, closer away from the beach. And they had, and these stories go for many, many families that were homesteaders here, but they could have had all of Cooper Point, but they were tired of being on the water. So they moved, they wanted inland. So they came up with about 200 acres, which is now Kaiser Road. They put in the road and sold off when the college was coming in, Evergreen State College. They sold quite a few acres to them. Many of our acres now are in the Thurston County Land Trust, so it's protected. We have a lot of wetlands surrounding us, so a lot of blue herons and frogs and geese, and just a nice area. So we feel very, very lucky that we're 4 or 5 minutes away from town, but fairly secluded where we're at. So that's my husband's history. But I joined, I grew up in a family. My dad was a logger and a land developer. So I always was kind of surrounding lots of conversations in our house about property and land, and they're not making any more of it, my dad would always say. So he tried to pick up as many parcels as he could, and made a good living at that. So I went and worked in an elementary school for about 12 years. And then my husband lost his job, and I thought, okay, I need a different occupation that I can still be flexible, but I can contribute more to our family financially. So I went into real estate, and about 20 years ago, I joined a very, very small business, Premier Properties One. They're no longer in business. and the broker was the person that took care of my dad. And so learned the ropes as I kept my school job, because, you know, you don't make $1 million in real estate right away or ever. So, so I was able to stay part-time at the school district and jump on board, getting a feel for real estate. Back then, the starter homes were about $200,000. And you wrote love letters and you really pleaded to get those. And then, of course, in 2008, things changed. It felt like overnight. And thankfully, a lot of people ask about the bubble, and, you know, we all see that the prices are going up, and are we going to crash? We talk a lot about it in our office meetings, so it's not just my opinion, but the opinion of some very well-educated, you know, including Jim Green, a lot of conversations with him. What happened in 2008 was not just house prices. It was lending practices that, you know, a lot of very smart people got involved with that lost their homes. And it was deregulation and financing, the adjustable rate mortgages. Who doesn't want 0 or 1% on a loan? And then you just refinance it after a couple of years. Well, we know what happened there. You couldn't refinance. So people were losing houses when their rates went up and up and up. It was easy to get an approval. Our joke is, if you had a pulse, you could get $1 million no matter if you were making $10 an hour. You could get whatever loan you wanted. Appraisers were really tied in with lenders, and after the 2008 crash, that changed, where appraisers aren't connected solely to a lender, making for more honest appraisals. And appraisals are getting tricky again. Prices are going up, and they have to find comparable properties to be able to account for their appraised values. So we are seeing some low appraisals, and so that helps even out the market and keep it from rising faster than it already is. So some fun stats, and we just had our morning meeting that we kind of recapped the 2020 year. Let me put up one little flyer that I have. Oops, sorry. Okay. Danielle's going to do so much better at this because she's younger. I'm sure very techie. Let's see. All right. So we started off our morning meeting with some stats, and the residential sales in Thurston County in 2019 was 4.19 billion. And that was in 2019, with the average price of a home was $351,000. Well, in 2020, even with the pandemic, and we were obviously so concerned when this all started hitting in March, of what are we going to do to earn a living and take care of our families. Well, it didn't last for long. That kind of slowdown, it escalated quickly. And in 2020, Thurston County took in $4.9 billion. Home prices increased right about 10% up to $388,000. Right now, it's fun to see tracking sales prices, what they list for and what they actually sell for. So as of February 2019, they were just over 100%. So they were just barely over. In February 2020, the sales price was 103%. And I'm sorry, that's this year, 2021, 103%. So homes are in general going above their list price. And we've all heard those stories where, and just recently, you haven't heard it because it's not sold yet, but an offer came in at $80,000 higher. An agent just said that she put in an offer for a client at $85,000 above what they asked for, but they were beat out by somebody that went in $100,000. Those are exceptions, not the rule, thank God. But we're seeing folks writing up, you have to write your best offer up. So what does that look like? Short inspection windows, a higher price, lots and lots. And these are not, I don't know where these people are. They're paying cash for these homes. We just got an offer on one of our $1 million listings for cash, and those are happening over and over and over again. So it's really hard for those first-time home buyers to compete with that, whether or not it's people moving down from Seattle, moving up from California. They're selling their homes for huge amounts of profits and being able to move here to Thurston County, or a little outside of Thurston County down to Lewis County, Grays Harbor County, the outskirts, McClary. It was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I remember having that conversation. Where should we pick up investment properties? And sure enough, it's those areas that surround Thurston County. We're in Lewis County showing a lot of homes right now to our especially to our younger buyers. Active listings, and this is the insanity. Last year in February, we had 244 homes on the market, which is light, but that's in February, which is normal. February this year, so just last month, we had 136 active listings, and that included manufactured homes and townhouses and condos. So that's not enough homes, and so many buyers for each home. So multiple offers is the norm, and then to decipher which ones to go with. Interest rates, thankfully, are still holding. I just reached out to my lender this morning, and she said a 30-year fixed is 3.375. That's gone up about 0.5% in the last 4 to 6 weeks. So that will make a huge difference of what someone can afford. 2 working people, affording a home around $400 or $450. Well, once the interest rates go up to, 4.5, 5.5, that's a big difference in a house payment. So we'll see that start to change a little bit of what people can afford. Let me see. Are there questions out there? I want to be able to tell you guys what you're most interested in hearing. Are there questions in the chat? There's one. Let's see. And feel free to unmute. This is very casual, at least on my end of this. You asked earlier about people moving down, and it's like Jim just sent us each an email, and he's compiling for our office where our people are coming from, and we don't have that all figured out yet, but definitely a lot of our people are moving in from out of state. And like it was said, now it's kind of exciting to think, where do you want to live? Do you want to wake up and have a nature trail next to you? Do you want to have wetlands behind you? Do you want to be in a little community to have that interaction? Because now I get to work from home. So lots of choices that people get to make. Karen?
I've got a question too.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't want, but so my question is about duplexes. I mean, you almost went there with condos and townhouses, but do you have any commentary on duplexes? Not apartment complex, but just the next level.
Sure. And because duplexes shows up on our MLS feed as multifamily, so that wasn't in my $4 billion quotes. So that's why I stopped short of saying duplexes. Still, duplexes are going for a lot of money. And so it's still penciling out, because thankfully, and the rents have adjusted as well. So if you can find a rental, a duplex to buy, I don't think you'll ever go wrong with that. And of course, rentals are scary, and Danielle probably will go into, maybe not with the commercial, but rentals are worrisome right now. We have somebody selling 6 that they have down in Centralia. We're kind of preparing for that. because of all the COVID restrictions, and it's hard to get rid of non-paying landlords. But to buy one, I would be all over that. If a good one comes on the market, and you will be competing, but duplexes will be fabulous. There was one that just went for $550, a duplex in Tumwater, and it was $150,000 more than it would have been just probably about a year ago. So.
And do you know, was that a multi-room, and was that, do you know the details on that one? 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms or something?
It was just a standard. It was probably 1,500 square feet on each side, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It was a master, and then maybe 2.5 baths, the 2 upstairs and a half bath down.
Nice. That is a big price. That's a huge.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we thought, we'll see, and then it's closing now here shortly.
Okay. And I'm going to domineer one more question about interest rate projections. Do you have any idea? I know the U.S. Treasury 10-year went up 0.5%. It was a big move earlier this year. And I locked in, Betty, a 2.62 30-year with no points, half point, just about a month ago.
Yeah.
Half ago. So what do you project for interest rates going forward for the 2021?
I wish I was a better predictor. We do feel like they will be going up, and whether or not, and we're all, well, not all of us, there are some youngsters on this video I see, but whether or not it will go up to 4.5%, 5%. And of course, the youngest buyers will go, oh my gosh, but they were 3%. Well, us that have been around for a while go, well, they were 8%. And at one time, I remember 18 and 12. So they will go up, and but not astronomically is what the lender is thinking that I work with quite a bit. So whether or not but you'll feel the burn. I mean, it will be, 4.5%, 5% compared to your 2.6 or 2.7. So you did good. Pat yourself on the back.
Well, thank you. Betty, there might be some other questions, but I'm going to give the floor over to Danielle right now so she can prime the pump, and we'll have questions also for you and her.
Okay, and Karen's had her hand up for a bit.
Okay, Karen, why don't you do that with the last question, then we'll go to Danielle.
I'm just going to be quick. And that is, when people are wanting to move here, besides the lower prices than where they're coming from, what are people saying about, we want to be there because? Is it the closeness to nature? Is it trail system? Is it, what are the positives that are drawing people here besides costs that you see?
Right. And the folks that I've worked with and some other agents in my office, a lot still just think it's the quality of life. They hear fabulous things about the Northwest, or maybe they've stayed here at some point in their life. They've traveled, they've had dinner at a restaurant, and they go, this is where we're going to end up. You hear that quite often more. And it's just, as we're an hour away from the mountain, an hour away from the beach, an hour away from the city. So it is, and we have a really good reputation for a really great quality of life.
Okay.
The weather's, really good too. I mean, it's not too hot, not too cold.
Right.
So yeah, I think, and those are the same reasons people have been for years and years.
Okay, so that hasn't changed, but now they have the flexibility to do it, and our prices are less expensive than others.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. You bet.
Okay, Danielle, why don't you give us an update on the commercial real estate? Here she goes.
Sorry. Thanks again for having me today. I will touch on mostly on commercial real estate, but I also can touch a little bit on the rental market as well, since that is a big part of what we do here at the Rance Group. Can everyone see my slide? Yes, okay, great. So I do see a lot of familiar faces on the screen. For those of you who don't know, what the Rance Group does and who we are. We're a full-service commercial and residential investment company. We don't sell houses, but we do residential management, investment sales, and then we do a lot of commercial brokerage, leasing, management, and development. We've been around for 40 some odd years, 45, almost 50 years. I'm the third generation in the company. And I'm really interested in just learning more about your group as well. I bought a house about 5 years ago off Kaiser. So now I'm a resident of the West Side after growing up from over by Olympia High School. So focusing now on West Olympia real estate, commercial real estate, we definitely have seen some changes over the last couple of years. And COVID as well has brought some changes, some businesses closing. Fortunately, I think we'll be seeing more businesses opening in the near future. And something that has been a trend over the last 5 to 10 years with big box stores, retail, kind of going out and more people shopping online. A lot of those big box stores have been redeveloped for other uses. And we saw that at the El Serape on Cooper Point. That is now a Kaiser medical office. Toys R Us is now home to Planet Fitness. And I hear that there's going to be a tool related retailer moving in. So especially through COVID, those businesses, the service-oriented uses have continued to survive and thrive, even with the restrictions, medical especially. It's an essential service. They've continued to operate, and they've even continued to expand. We've seen plenty of urgent cares open up. Along with that, fitness centers, now that they can be open, are taking up more retail properties. Quick serve restaurants, takeout, to go. I think that will continue to be strong, even through most restaurants had to turn themselves into takeout, quick serve through the pandemic, but I think that will continue to be pretty popular. And then beauty and wellness, lots of esthetician office, lash offices, facials. That's been a pretty strong sector as well. So a lot of the retail landscape has really been changing, and the West Olympia kind of being the hub for retail in our county is definitely changing with it. Multifamily area of commercial real estate has always been really strong. We obviously have a housing crisis, as Betty touched on too, and we just need more. We need more places for people to live. So development is happening as much as it can. We'll kind of talk more about those factors that are influencing development. And feel free to raise your hand or just unmute if you have any questions along the way. Thurston County as a whole is becoming more of a strategic location for many regional and national businesses. There's been a lot of industrial development and growth, mostly in Lacey and South County, that manufacturers and distribution companies have chosen our county to locate. It's a midway point between Seattle and Portland. Cost of living right now is relatively lower. So we see that still as continuing to support our economy.
Danielle, can I ask you a couple questions real quick? It's Nicole Potevnia. Hi.
Sure.
First question has to do with, is there any discussion as to whether or not the influx of urgent care and medical facilities into the area is in response to the current temperature. If that's, I hate to use the word, but fatty as opposed to long-term transition. Has there been any discussion about that within the community?
Well, not too much. I personally saw it as a reaction to universal health care and insurance covering more people and giving more access to healthcare, and also just the convenience of not having to schedule a doctor's appointment. So several factors. Do tend to be smaller facilities, so you can locate one in each neighborhood or part of town. So I don't really see that going away.
Okay, great. And then my second question has to do with something that Betty touched on, and that I'm sure you're going to delve into, and you can table me until that conversation if you want to. But my question is, how are these multifamilies penciling to profit in the natural lifetime of the buyers at the numbers that are coming out? I mean, typically you're looking at 30, 40-year life cycle of starting to pencil a duplex at over $500,000. Is my math off? Has the mindset changed in multifamily? So you can table that or address it.
Yeah, well, I'll just go to the next slide. Yeah, as with a lot of development, but mostly multifamily and housing, because it is the most visible to the whole community. Cost of construction, but also governmental regulations have drastically increased the cost of development, of new development over the last decade or so. It's getting really hard to build something, but market rate is market rate, but affordable housing is just basically impossible unless you're subsidized by the government. And then along with energy code changes this year, and just supply chain changes with COVID, cost of construction is crazy. So, but there are outside developers that just have the money. Investment out of China has definitely played a role in some of the new developments we've seen in Thurston County. International money coming in. So it's not looking like it's getting any easier. But so I mentioned that as one of the items that's contributing to the low supply. It's just hard to build, which ends up increasing the cost of our existing properties, both residential rents and commercial lease rates. We just don't have a lot of buildable land either in Olympia and Thurston County, and that decreases supply for new industrial development. And then high demand, investors coming in from Seattle, California, out of overseas. They see us as a really great investment opportunity, and it's pricing out a lot of local investors. So the market definitely was slow last year during COVID. Businesses didn't want to make any big decisions while we weren't sure what was going to happen to the economy. But really, since the first of the year, it has been pretty active, and both leasing and sales. The commercial real estate investment market is becoming to look as competitive as the residential housing market. Multiple bids, over asking price. It's a little concerning, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. And then on the topic of COVID, we are we are starting to assess what are the long-term effects going to be in the real estate market for landlords who lease to office tenants. The state of Washington is our biggest tenant. They lease the most amount of space. And so far, we're seeing them renew their leases. They haven't made any really big decisions permanent decisions of sending their employees home to work full time. So that's promising. I think, as we know, they move slow to make decisions anyway. So it could be another year while they do their studies. But they do have leases that are being renewed for 3 to 5 years now. So it's still a big question mark, but as far as our market, I don't see there being as big of an impact as, say, Seattle, where there's large corporations who have decided to make their headquarters remote. I think Pinterest was going to lease tens of thousands of office space in Seattle and then decided not to. So luckily we don't have that big of a market down here.
Could I ask a question about, sorry, about the design? Are you seeing any requests for different kinds of buildings? I know almost everyone I've talked to, for example, in the residential side, has decided that they need more doors in their house that they can close to separate off their family and their children and all of that. Some people think they need bigger houses to have a home office, work sharing stations in offices. Are you seeing any of those sort of, I don't want exactly what I wanted last year?
Mm-hmm. A little bit. It's mostly kind of barriers between workspaces. The office model was really going towards an open concept with just your tiny little laptop station and everyone's close and open. But I think we might be seeing more of the taller cubicle walls coming back, being more prevalent. There hasn't really been too much of a trend yet. I think it's still a little early.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So a couple of just little tidbits of change coming to the west side too. The Capitol Village Shopping Center recently sold. Some of you may be aware of where Goodwill and Ace Hardware is. New property owners are planning some big renovations. That center has been pretty sad for a while, and I think their new plans are going to be a really great benefit to the community. This is just kind of a rendering of what they're modeling the design after: facade upgrades, driveway upgrades, and hopefully that'll bring more tenants.
Danielle, did that sell to a local investor or did that sell to an international investor?
Local, regional.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, oops. I just was on the phone with another real estate broker this morning and he does a lot of retail on the west side, and just talking to him about other deals that he's seeing happen. And one of them was not the Benihanas, with Fujiyama over by the mall. It's going to be a quick serve restaurant soon. I can't say who it is, but I'll just say that there'll be a lot more chicken there on that corner. So that's kind of an interesting piece of news. And yeah, I just kind of see the market as a whole. A lot of people are concerned that the economy is just not going to be able to recover, and commercial real estate, there's going to be so many vacancies, but I just really don't see that being the case right now. And unless some new thing hits us, I think we're on the road to recovery and just picking up where we left off in 2019. So any other questions I can answer?
Just if we could revisit the question about people buying the multifamily at really, really elevated prices at this point in time, and what the projection would be for how those are going to pencil in the short or long term when those, I mean, are we assuming that the rent rates are going to escalate to the point where they are going to pencil sooner than anticipated because of the lack of available housing and the projected demand? But then how does that correlate with what people's ability to afford housing would be? So like on a $550,000 3-bedroom duplex, which Betty was referencing, I mean, I'm not as brilliant as you with the numbers. You could do this in your head, but I would venture to guess you're looking at a 25-year to longer payout on the current rent rates on a number like that. Like what's the thinking of the investor purchaser when they're looking at these kinds of numbers?
Well, for a $550,000 duplex, you're going to, in a 3-bedroom duplex rent, you're going to get close to $2,000 a month. I mean, depending on the age and quality and location, it's rental rates are so inflated right now too. You're going to pencil, and if you're living on one side versus if you're renting it out, if you're renting out both sides, you're going to pencil right away.
Okay.
Yeah. But new development, building something new, that's many, many years just because of the cost.
Well, great. Let's continue with the questions. We'll open it up for Betty too. So open platform here. We have about 15 minutes left. So questions for either speaker would be great.
Okay, I'm going to mention the regulation. So we at the Thurston Regional Planning Council have been working on climate work with the cities and county. And are there some ways to balance the benefits of having better energy efficiency in both commercial and residential real estate with that cost? You know, from a long-term standpoint, some of those investments are going to be less expensive in a monthly basis for whoever's renting or living in that. So, and this is not a loaded question. I really sincerely would like to have affordable housing that also is energy efficient. Is anybody doing anything that would be helpful? How do we get beyond this?
It's a really tough one because those types of upgrades are capital improvements that the landlord pays for, but the tenant's paying for the power and the utilities, and so it's not the same pocket that the money is going in and coming out of. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is, and it's so expensive. I mean, to put solar panels, say, on a residential house, it takes so many years for you to recoup those costs, and the cost to do it originally is super expensive. So until we are producing enough so that the costs go down, or there's more help in getting them put onto I would love to have solar panels. But it's just, it's very costly. You know, to build new construction, the builders do have to do, and you'll see a lot of like tankless hot water systems in properties because they need to do something, the high efficiency furnaces, and the tankless hot water gives them the credits that they need to be building. So we're seeing a lot of those. But boy, solar is the one, and it could just be me personally. This is not any conversations through, but it seems like the best thing we could do using a resource solar that is clean and easy, but the price is really prohibitive to a lot of people. So I don't know what your answer is.
Yeah, and a lot of those programs have been geared to tenants as opposed to builders. So when there's a great program for solar stuff, often it is a property owner rather than a builder that has access to those kinds of funds for changing. Okay. I could ask 700 questions. I'm going to try maybe just one more. So I spent the morning looking at legislative stuff, another part of my job, and I see that the condo bill is still sort of hanging out there. Are there other pieces of legislation that you see at the state level that would provide some relief? I mean, I could label a whole lot of things: housing, homelessness, affordable housing, but do you anticipate that those are going to help? Are there a couple things that we should all be advocating for at the state level that would benefit, that would get us more affordable housing that still is profitable for the real estate and building community?
I honestly am only aware of bills that would add to the cost.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too. And it's like, are there barriers that we can remove that could help everyone? And I'm not seeing them, but I thought maybe you'd have some answers to that.
Well, it's really.
I might chime in. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Well, I was just going to say, Karen, I am aware that they did the energy upgrades for development that were effective on February 1st. And I know that that's been one of the things that I'm a real estate attorney here in town. And that's one of the things that I've been understanding from the developers is an element of among many, including supply costs and what have you, that is impacting the increase in construction costs. Numbers are coming in, what I've seen so far, 3 to 4 times the price per square foot that they were a year ago. Danielle, do you want to comment on that? Is that something that you're seeing as well in terms of price per square foot in development costs?
Well, yeah, it depends on the materials and everything. Maybe Stuart can comment on it as well, but there are a lot of pieces that have increased more than that. Wood, lumber.
Thank you. Thanks for indulging me with the questions. If Craig wasn't on the phone, I'd say I don't usually ask so many questions, but he would be laughing hysterically. And so I just am fascinated with how some of the things we're trying to, how can we better coordinate some of this stuff? It feels like we build adversarial relationships and that's not helping anybody. And, are there ways to work together better?
And we're certainly having conversations. Just yesterday with an agent in my office that works a lot with builders, and we were saying, I mean, just personally, if you go into Home Depot to buy a sheet of plywood that was $5 maybe a year ago, and it's pushing $40. And imagine building a house that takes a lot of sheets of plywood. Same with, a 2x6. I mean, it's just the prices are astronomical, and some of it is the restrictions about where we're getting our lumber right now, and some places that we're not getting our lumber right now. So there's a shortage of the lumber. So as we see, and hopefully we'll see that as this year is coming to the end in the vaccine and the COVID restrictions are going to lessen and lessen, we'll see more importing back for our lumber supply. And there's a lot of lumber being produced right now, but they're still catching up. So we were just talking about building another house on an adjacent piece of property to mine for our daughter. And he said, just don't build quite yet. just wait, get everything ready, permits ready, put your septic, your well in, but maybe hold off on the actual materials, because the materials are astronomical right now, and we really don't think that's going to stay that way. And I guess, these are guesses. We're doing our best on having educated guesses, but those prices are pretty out of sync for shouldn't be staying that high for hopefully too much longer.
Danielle, one more question, actually for both of you. With respect to the residential, and a lot of and this kind of piggybacks on the comment that was just made. In order to find qualified affordable housing, the assumption would be that the worlds have to cooperate with one another. So there has to be supply, there has to be demand, there has to be enough. There's a lot of legislation right now centered around the COVID crisis and how it's impacting individuals. I have seen a significant number of people wanting to purge their assets in the state of Washington and want to reallocate those funds, continue to reside in Washington, but reallocate those funds and investments in other states for fear of holding on to residential multifamily assets in this state because of the legislation or the proposed legislation that they're seeing. Can you speak on any level, even if it's very general, on the pulse of the property management community and how they're feeling about kind of what comes next on a general sense?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. We've got landlords of single family homes selling every month, both because of the market right now, they can profit a lot, but also because it's just become, that's the only way you can get somebody out of, it's one of the only ways you can get someone out of a house right now because of the eviction moratorium is either to sell it or if the tenant is causing damage and destruction. But yeah, it's a very big concern. It's becoming more and more difficult to be a landlord in Washington State. It is, I want to say it's slightly easier than California. So they may be coming from California. Yeah, we're running out of inventory too. It's just, the inventory is so low. The only answer is to build more.
Okay.
And that's the challenge we're all facing.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing our, landlords selling because they can profit a lot. It is the way you can be done. Being a landlord is to sell, and that is the way you can get them out. And I think it's still 60 days. I know it was going to be changing to 90, but to be able to just be done because it's getting harder and you're making a good profit on your homes. And then several people are selling their single family personal homes to move. We have, several people moving to Arizona, into Idaho, just wanting what they're going to view as a different way of life. So we'll see if they're content with their moves in the future. But thankfully, people are still moving here thinking that we have the best way of life. So
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Okay, I have time for maybe one more question before I make a small announcement and adjourn our meeting. So any other questions? Okay, well, like I say, this is recorded, which is a wonderful resource on our WOBA webpage. And it's great to have a crowd again. Craig, I wanted to talk about April's agenda. Are we set up for the April forum? Sorry to put you on the spot. We're talking about the homeless coordinator.
Yes, we are, Wes. Really looking forward to that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that'll be the new Olympia homeless coordinator, right? That'll be introducing herself to our community and talking about what's going on in that area.
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
That's correct.
great. And then in May, do we have stuff on the agenda?
I don't think that we've made a final decision on programming for May yet. I think, and I think it's fine to reveal. I think part of that reasoning is there's, we're cautiously hopeful we can go back to one space at the Capitol Mall by then. I don't know if that will be possible or not, but always monitor the email announcements, Facebook postings for upcoming programs and locations, and we'll have information out in plenty of time.
And maybe, really, hopefully, might have a party this summer. How would that be?
Yeah, right. Well, we certainly would like to bring the wine event back. which is just a great opportunity for folks to get together and chat. That's always been informal and fun. And I think we're all anxious for those sorts of events. So we'll be monitoring what happens with the pandemic and the county rules, and then we'll make things happen accordingly.
Okay, and then lastly, Craig, sorry to put you on the spot, is the PPE program still going on through WOBA?
We have a little bit of, we have a few things left. So if those of you that were not aware or haven't had an opportunity to take advantage of it, the West Olympia Business Association partnered with the City of Olympia and the EDC and Thurston Strong to make PPE materials available for free to businesses, to include hand sanitizer and masks, the basic supplies that both retail and office facilities need. And you'll see a link that Jennifer just put up in the chat. And I believe, like I said, there's still a handful of materials left. Those are free. And again, that was made possible by WOBA partnering with some other folks. So take advantage if you haven't yet. Great,
thank you, Oracle Support, for managing that for us. So if there's not any other items from the floor, are there any items from the floor before we join our meeting? Okay, well, keep your eyes on those emails and let's try to get some momentum up. I think the Thurston County economy is getting some momentum up, and we'd like that momentum to be in WOBA too. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.